What is up, ladies and gents? It is your friendly neighborhood BJJ podcaster, RAF ESPARZA, coming to you with another great installment of The Bullpen, a spin-off and a collaboration between the Grappling Hour and Inside BJJ. I hope that you guys are ready for a great episode. I know I am, but we do have business to get to first. I realize ending it with the, and then starting with it again. You know what I mean? Like sometimes when you do it live, you don't really think things through. Nobody else thinks like this in jiu-jitsu, so I think we're good. All right, here's what I want you to do. If you are not subscribed to myself at the Grappling Hour or to Tim at Inside BJJ, what I want you to do is right over here, I want you to like and subscribe, por favor, if you find value in what we're putting out here. You know, I've been watching YouTube videos, and I think that's how they get around getting dinged. They're like, if you find value in what we do, which is, by the way, another really shitty way of saying, do you value me? You like me? Say yes, push here. So anyway, if you could do that, that would be great. But also, if you would go on over to patreon.com/grappling hour, check out my interviews 30 days before anybody else. We just did Brailer Grout. That was a great interview. We've got some other interviews that are going to be coming up in the next day or so. So keep eyeballs out for that. And yes, we've been doing some fight companions. We did one for UFC 304, and we'll have some things to talk about at that event. But speaking of going to events, our good friend, Senor Tim Freeman, was out and doing the reporting work for this show. Tim, I have to ask, what was it like at the Karate Combat the other day, sir?
Hey, Raf, it's great to be here. Karate Combat was exciting, even from the cheap seats. That's what my slogan is for Karate Combat. I managed to get access to the place. Unfortunately, Secret Service was actually running security due to some of the guests that were in the audience that night. And my plan to slip down to the pit, get some interviews and get some handshakes and kiss some babies and shake some hands and do all that. It just was thwarted by the gentleman wearing the Secret Service vest with the shaved head. He was having none of my nonsense. But overall, it was a good event. It's pretty exciting to watch in person. The karate was pretty cool. There's a little iffy on when they're going to stop the fights. There was some ground and pound in some of them, and other ones they kind of like stood them up. It was almost like kind of whatever the ref was feeling at the moment. That was what they were going to do. I will say that the grappling mixed with the Karate Combat is not super exciting when the grappling comes after the Karate Combat matches. I think if you flip that around and you put the vegetables before the dessert, people will like that better. So that was a little bit, and that's the only time jiu-jitsu will ever be compared to as vegetables. But overall, it was a great event. I had a great time. Got to check it out. Got to touch base with Brandon McCatherine and his crew that was out there that night. And good for the sport. Fun to watch.
I'll come back to this in a second, but let's introduce our other friend here. One, handsome Kevin Sherrill. Kevin, how are you doing, sir? And how many combats are you currently engaged in?
Man, I can't keep track. It's kind of like if you're juggling, you can't start counting the balls you've got in the air. You just got to keep it moving.
The second you look at one of the balls, that's when it falls and the whole thing goes astray. So, Kevin, let me ask this. When you were watching any part of Karate Combat, well, I guess we should start with this. This is a some shift question. Do you watch any of the Karate Combat for the jiu-jitsu? Do you tune in for that? Do you tune in to watch the rest of the event, or do you just look at the highlights that happen on Instagram?
I'm going to blaspheme a bit, and I'll watch the highlights on Instagram, of course, but like if I tune in, I'm watching the karate.
Oh, God. Okay. Turncoat. Yeah. Got it. All right. Benedict Arnold here. So if that's the case, there was some controversy here, and we don't have it on the board, but I did want to open it up to the crew, which is that somebody interpreted what President Awesome said as he's canceling Karate Combat, which is not the case. He's saying he's making the case for jiu-jitsu to feature pit submissions in their Karate Combat arena. Tim, you mentioned it was a little weird to have them juxtaposed, but was the mood of the crowd a little bit angry at the jiu-jitsu portion?
Yeah, it was. And there were a lot of jiu-jitsu guys in the crowd, and you could hear all of them giving their advice on what the dude needed to do. Dude needs to do this. Hit a throw by. Go hit that fireman's. Run him up on the wall. Like, there was a lot of leaning on each other in some of the matches, which it could just be that, it's just these guys were out there maybe I don't know who these dudes were. Maybe they were local guys and they were just nervous. I get that part of it, so I'm not criticizing that so much, but I really was interested in seeing how that pit wall would come into play because of the fact that CJI is going to feature this and the stakes are so high there. But I didn't see much, to be honest. I didn't see much. A couple guys did a little two-step run up and run down, like, I don't want to go there. So, I don't know, man. I was hoping to see more, but overall, I think it's a good step. I think it definitely can have a place in the karate combat, kind of landscape.
Universe.
But yeah, right now, jujitsu's the Subway in the Chevron gas station. It's just like hanging out with karate combat and hoping that people watch. Like, I hope you buy a sandwich when you fuel up and play the lotto. So
I mean,
don't know,
to be fair, the Chevron, I think they're the one that have the adorable little cars, like the little
yeah, they do actually.
Little caricatures. Every time I gas in my car, I go, I hate that I'm paying a lot, but these things are fucking adorable. So I will give them that. Kevin, you're somebody who says that you only watch the highlights, but you come for the combat. How can they get you? How can they retain you? You should be the prime demo, and yet you're still kind of like, I mean, all right, if I got time, but give me some punch face, and I'll watch that instead. How do we get you, sir?
Yeah, I think it's tough. I think it's tough to pull in fans when you have, fans of the vegetables when you have dessert rating, right? Like, I eat pretty healthy normally, but best believe if you give me a choice between cheesecake and, a vegetable plate, I know I'm going for the cheesecake. It's kind of one of those running things. Grapplers, you'll hear this repeated by a lot of grapplers, especially guys that have like watched a lot of grappling, studied it. All us jiu-jitsu nerds love our tape study. You'll hear guys talk about like being very studious with their tape study. Mm-hmm. You don't really hear people talking about how amazing and exciting that one thing was. We have like a local promotion that also slides grappling matches in between MMA fights, and it's just the silliest thing ever. It makes jiu-jitsu look terrible. If I go to a jiu-jitsu card, I understand the tempo. It's like if I go to watch, golf in whatever alternate dimension that happens. I can sit there and watch it. I can be a student. I can prepare myself emotionally. If I'm going to go watch a 3-hour movie, I brace myself for that. But you can't give me fireworks, incredible excitement, wheel kicks, whatever, and then turn around and be like, all right, anyways, let's, watch somebody try to figure out how to pass a guard.
Yeah. Now let's read the Bible.
The issue that I run into is I think ONE FC, for all of its faults, at least kind of segues between them. And I think part of that is in the fact that they have a commentator in Tom DeBlas that they bring. So they kind of treat it like its own separate event. So I do appreciate that. Maybe it's just the presentation and the prestige of how they look as opposed to what we look like. Because most of the times it looks like a sideshow in the way that they present it at most events, where it's like, all right, guys, we got some little people walking out now. Oh, it's time to bring out the jiu-jitsu people. And then you think about it and you go, what is this? Why are we doing it like this? And then you immediately feel for the first person who has to make the walkout, not the second person. It's the first person that has to do this. I hate my life. I hate my life.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Love you guys. Let's pretend to.
Go to Shaka.
Come on. Let's pretend
to
do this.
Have you guys ever done it on an MMA card?
I have not. Kevin, have you?
No.
I have had a jiu-jitsu match on an MMA card, and the entire time you are praying the fight before you is boring. You're just praying. You're like, oh my! You do not want to see someone get flying kneed, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna go pull guard now. It's a rough spot to be in as a competitor.
Yeah.
Something that Eddie Bravo said originally when they did combat jiu-jitsu, the very first like prototype event, it was embedded in an MMA event, and they had these MMA fights, and then they slip in this combat jujitsu, and it's these two guys grappling each other and then like throwing slaps. And the crowd was just like, these jujitsu guys are freaking weenies, dude. Like, what are we doing? And Eddie realized back then, he's like, you could put combat jujitsu after jujitsu, but you can't put it before MMA. It's just placement. They just need to it's product placement. You got to put it in the right place in the store, man.
Product placement. I like that Miracle Whip has a better reputation than us. Like, it's just not. It's just where you place it. That's all. We're just dumb. We're just not good at placing things. So I will say, I'm very happy when we get our looks and MMA organizations want to get some shine or an elevated feel for a grappling event. Because I think for the most part, they just figure, well, you're all here, so you might as well watch this. So I don't know that that's necessarily the worst, but I think you really have to guide the audience. And I think that's usually the announcer job. I usually think it's a package job in terms of the videos that you present for it. You just have to educate your audience to what it is. Because honestly, audiences will go a long way if you just communicate it properly. Most of the times it just is, and here's this other thing we're doing. Yeah, that's a thing. Enjoy it or don't, whatever. All right, here are these two guys. So I want to say this. Kevin's match was the popcorn match. First of all, Wallow J, I don't think you could just come on the show without saying hello and just addressing. He is a member of the team now, sir. So you must watch yourself on how you address the handsome one on the show.
I think it's going to be the opposite now that he's a member of the team.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was like, actually, no, I'm just saying this facetiously. They actually abuse us worse than substitute teachers here on the show, so that's fine. If anything, it means you're part of the group. And Winterstick83, hi, friends. Hello to you as well. Gentlemen, I think it is time that we go to the board, but I do want to say thank you to Karate Combat for hooking up Tim with that opportunity. Maybe next time, when there's less, Secret Service involved, my boy can get some interviews and go backstage, because I'm pretty sure they'll probably go back to Nashville. And if I can make one implored thing, I think you guys have the right show and the right format in terms of a pit for jiu-jitsu. It's intriguing, it's interesting, and I know it's close because there are some haters out there, but I think you should be willing to be that organization, because there isn't any organization like you guys. And if you were to get the next biggest thing, the Craig Jones Invitational, to be inspired by what it is you're doing, why would you stop that momentum? If anything, you're going to fall further behind. So I say, stake your flag, give us some good stuff, and let us try to show up for you guys, because I just want to see a compelling series of matches, and let's start pulling some of these athletes. And I'm going to tell you this. There are a few athletes that are on some of these smaller, quote unquote, smaller cards that even just this weekend were enough where I was like, yo, somebody should pull that guy. Somebody should invest some money in this guy or that guy. So we have eyes and ears on all of them. I'm just saying, as a outsider, keep faith alive, keep hope alive, whatever it is you need to do. We want to see more from you guys. So that's all I got. Plus, it's a waste of a fucking good space. Like, just use your thing. That's all. Gents, let's go to the board. And I'm very excited for today's board for a number of reasons. But we start off with some unfortunate news actually right now, and we'll get to that right up top. Mason Fowler is unfortunately having to drop out of the Craig Jones Invitational. As a result of that, yes, I do think that shakes up that division, so much to the point where Craig doesn't know who he's going with, or at least that's how he's presenting it. My question to both of you gentlemen, who should get that final spot? I'm going to start with you, Kevin.
You already know my answer. Paul MF and Ardea. Hit my boy up, get him into CJI. If we're not going with the Paul Ardea option, if that's not something we're interested in, go pick whoever. Go hit up Paul, ask him whoever he thinks is his toughest matchup, and pull that guy. That's who you should drag over to CJI. Let's start thinning out that ADCC bracket. And I just want to see Paul just go highlight reels the entire time.
Okay, I'm with you. Paul's a dear friend of the show, arguably somebody who I'll call to replace you if you're out of line. But like, isn't it too late for him to drop out of ADCC? Like, I don't want to get him in trouble. Like, that's how close he is to our show. But this close, do you think there would be irreplaceable harm if he were to leave at this juncture?
Irreplaceable is a strong word. Like, we're in fighting, man. There's some crazy relationships out there that get frayed. I think, man, I'm absolutely overestimating people as I say this. I was about to say, nah, man, I think people are reasonable. Think people are professional and mature. You may be right. I may be overestimating.
I'm putting it out there because I want my boy to get his, 9th, 10th edition of going to ADCC. Like, he's going to be in there forever. Tim, let's go to you. What say you on this? Who's supposed to get that last spot?
Well, I think this is a chance for Craig to pull the Bugs Bunny act one more time and play a big card. He can obviously, losing Fowler's a big deal. He's one of the more exciting guys in that bracket, and you can never count him out. He's experienced. He's a good wrestler. He's good at jiu-jitsu. He could play top. He could play bottom. Like, he's a pretty versatile athlete. So that is a loss. It's still a mystery as to why he's out. I think the speculation is that he's injured, but I've heard other speculation as well. Those are just rumors, though. But I'd like to see Craig pull in a legend here, man. Maybe he can pull in someone like Buchecha, or if he can steal somebody from ADCC, as you guys have potentially suggested. That's a strong move right at the end. ADCC is going to hate that guy a little bit, but they got a lot of people on their list right now. So I think he'd just become another name on that long list. But yeah, it's an opportunity for Craig to do something big. And I think he should. I think he should go big this last couple weeks and really stir up the energy again.
Listen, I just love the fact that somebody drops out, and because you feel like we've depleted probably some of the biggest names in the sport, it's become a golden ticket, a Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory-esque run, where I have seen some of my close friends putting up their applications. It's like, I mean, me? And I can't fault them for it. It is just slightly random. And we'll come back to this a little bit later, Jake, where it says professional and mature. I actually think that does us better on another topic here, but it goes without saying, I don't think we've seen professional and mature from any organization in jiu-jitsu, period. And I say this as a person who's covered a lot of them, and I love some of them dearly, but it is apples and oranges. And what I do love about this process is when people do use the words, oh, this is a much more professional sport, I go, at its core, shuffleboard's still a little more professional than us. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not quite where we need it to be, but I hope good things for it. Gents, we're going to go to our second topic right now. And unfortunately, we don't have the video for this one, but we'll go ahead and describe it for you. I don't know who was the person to put up this as a topic. Tim, was this you?
Yes, that was me.
Okay, great. Tim, I'm going to let you kind of set up the scene here, but there was a little bit of discrepancy on whether there could have been a phantom tap at the most recent UFC 304. Tim, let's go ahead and have you fill us in on that one.
Yeah, so this was a fight at 304 between Muhammad Makhachev and he was going up against Manel Cape, I believe. And it was a pretty good fight. Lots of exchanges were going on, and at one point, Makhachev pulls a guard more or less, or kind of ends up. I think it was more off of a takedown or a scramble attempt, and he sets up a guillotine. I'm sorry, Manel sets up a guillotine on Makhachev, and then there's one of these moves where the dude brings his hand in and touches Manel's leg, but it to me it didn't look like a tap. Makhachev went on to win the fight by decision, and after the fight, Cape had gone out to the internet and posted this stuff, and this is the second time Makhachev's been accused of doing this, so you know, it's probably low hanging fruit, especially if you're a little salty because you lost. And maybe he feels like he did tap. When you're in the heat of it too, as you guys know, you don't always remember everything exactly as it was. Some things are more intensified in your mind and some things are not. But I guess the bigger question is like, is the fake tap, AKA the Brazilian tap, is that like a legitimate technique, or is that something that we consider dishonorable? Like, what's your guys' take on that? I've reffed matches where somebody tapped and then said they didn't tap, but it was more like they didn't want to lose and they just admitted that they tapped and we were done. But have you guys ever come across this?
There's nothing more that I love than making you have to institute the disappointed dad look of like, all I can see in my head is, now son, you did tap, but I'm gonna pretend like I'm hearing you out here. I've seen it. My thoughts on if it's okay. I'm a huge pro wrestling fan, so I'm like, yo, I do judge you on how well you are really playing this up. Like, if you commit to the act, I kind of give you a little bit of leeway. Kevin, where do you fall on this?
I'm sort of in between. Is it sort of a dishonorable sneak play? Sure. Also, this is fighting. Like, people will sneak you on the glove touch. People will absolutely do whatever they can to get ahead. I've had people that I've coached tell me, oh, well, he tapped and then I let him out and then he claimed he didn't tap. And I go, all right, well, I'm going to stop you at then you let him out. Like, you wait for the ref to come get you, man. You have that guy in a heel hook and he taps, you stop right where you're at and you just look and you wait. And it's up to him whether we want to keep going. You claim you don't tap, we're going to do the Paul Harris. You're going to have to prove it to me after this.
Yeah, I mean, there's also a reason why I don't compete a ton about this sort of stuff. Like, I'll go within reason. I do appreciate going up against fellow olds in that I kind of think to myself, like, this dude, I know he works a construction job. Like, you know what I mean? Like, is it worth this piece of metal? I do want to win, but you know what I mean? Like, I'll secure it. It's just, I recognize that about myself. I just also think, yes, you are right, Kevin. You do have to go until the ref pulls you off. It's more so this code of honor where we do give a lot of credit when somebody does tap and they do that, like, yeah, tap. And everybody's like, wow, what a good human being. And I go, that's the basic. Like, that shouldn't be something that's like commendable in a high regard. It's just yeah, dude, if you tap, we can probably run the video back and go look at it. If we're in the UFC, anywhere else, you know, I mean, not exactly the easiest thing to replicate, which I think is part of the reason why Tim, when he's looking at it, he goes, you don't have the angle. And that, my friends, is why I say play it up, because if you're smart, one thing to learn from pro wrestling, you find out where the ref is. Somebody's in an armbar in pro wrestling. If the ref's over that way, you tap on the other side. And then when you tap on the other side, the ref can't see it. And then the person lets go and you're like, oh, you idiot. And then you go for a pin or a submission. See, it's very smart. If you do that sort of stuff, I kind of give you a higher degree of difficulty that you pulled off. And I did see this. Jake Watson just put up, Kevin, you're doing great, man. You'll never be as handsome or Tim or as witty as Raf, but you're cool in your own way. Do you have a response to this?
I don't have to be more handsome or witty than either of them. I just got to outdo you.
You know, that actually does make sense. And, you know, it was followed in part by Wallow J, who said, oh, shit, Jake took his shot. And Raf just blocked that into the bleachers. Dominique Wilkins style. And I think that's in reference to the ADCC stuff.
Wallow's just coming in hot today, man. He won't actually come on the show, but he'll talk mad trash in the comments. This guy is a keyboard warrior.
Wallow's just like, hey, guys, I didn't do anything. I'm just the person that incites the incident in a reality show and then exits out before the housewives go, what did you say about my husband?
He wants you to know Wallow has the time and could be here and could be a part of the show. It's just beneath him. He refuses to.
He's taking selfies at the gym of his workouts.
Oh, stop it, guys. Listen, he's not even here on the show, but he did address you first. So I have to remember that. here, Kevin. Tyler Sage has this one last comment, and it says, these dudes were jawing at each other all fight week, causing problems, did virtually nothing when they actually had the time to fight in the cage. Dana's gonna cut Mokalev. I mean, yeah, dude, especially if you hear there is a back and forth, I think, on whether there was instruction from some of the matchmakers at UFC who told him that his style is too boring and not to wrestle. And then I think afterwards, Dana was very clear about saying, like, hey, these guys are dirtbags. And apparently was leveraging, I think, an exit to the PFL as a means of trying to hold everything hostage, like behind their backs and all this sort of stuff. And of course, a little bit later, his camp said that's not at all true. So I don't know who to believe in this one. I can tell you one thing is factual, and that fight, not that great. So at the very least, it'd be better if we had a good fight and then there was a discrepancy. Here, I think all of us are kind of like, hey, you know what, dude? It's all good. You can leave. Go make some money at the PFL. I think we're all good on this, but it definitely struck me as I was cleaning up that night and I heard Dana White being like, he'll do great at the PFL. And I go, oh, that's what it is right now. Oh boy. Okay. Well, I think we're done here. And Dana was very salty at that press conference, by the way, which made for some belly laughs out of me as I was doing other work. And I just was like, what'd you expect, dude? It's like 6 a.m. in the morning. It's like, yeah, dude, these guys don't fight well at 3 a.m. What the fuck? And it's like, bro, you couldn't even hide the fact that you didn't want Bilal to win. Like, you chill down, Dana White. All right, let's go to our next topic. This in itself did seem to be making the big waves here in the jiu-jitsu community. Yes, the love affair of Craig Jones and Gabby Garcia continued with a longtime favorite making his way as the moderator of, I guess, a discussion. I don't think it was a debate. It's something. That's what it is. But it does look like they are going overtime on trying to make you guys aware that the Battle of the Sexy is happening in less than 3 weeks. I'll ask you this. Kevin, you seem to be very aware of what the stakes are. Do you mind telling the audience, in case they don't know, what exactly is at stake here between Craig Jones and Gabby Garcia?
So if you're unaware, that's understandable. The press conference was 40 minutes, and who has that time? The stakes are simple. Craig challenged Gabby. I believe Hanach actually wanted to make it interesting, and Gabby started talking about how she has not been tapped in a leg lock in 10 years, to which Craig replied, so if I tap you, you're going to collab with me on OnlyFans. Gabby returns and says, what if I win? She wants $1 million, specifically $1 million from that would otherwise go to kids with cancer. I imagine that makes it spend better. I don't know. But those are the stakes. It has created a very interesting dynamic. I'm not going to lie. I am not subscribing to the OnlyFans, but I am interested to see how this match turns out.
When we say an OnlyFans collaboration, Tim, do you have any idea what that means? And if so, how did we get to $1 million for a charity event?
Yeah, I'm not sure what it means. I do know that these two have been threatening to fight each other for the last 3 or 4 years now. So I think what started off as a goof has turned into a real thing. I don't know. I love seeing Renato Laranja back on the scene. I think he's great. Masterful performance as always. Outside of that, I'm not super interested in this one, to be totally honest with you. And, you know, is this just a ploy to like build up an OnlyFans account? Like people are going to have to subscribe to this to watch it, or how is this going to, and then who's paying for it? Like, where did this $1 million come from? That's what I want to know. Like where did this extra $1 million come from? Couldn't that have been given to the competitors
or others? I would say this though. So I'm just confused why there's a wager to make it more interesting. I know that's a common practice now there was a little bit of an element of like you were watching that Jake Paul. Let's add something else here where you go, I thought we already had contracts. Why are we doing this? Please stop picking on Ben Askren. He's helpless when it comes to hands. Like, there's things that happen here that you go, what are we doing this for? In this particular case, I do have to ask you a follow-up question, each of you. And be honest. Tim, you alluded to the fact that you're only so interested in this. Like, granted, the antics, we get it. And again, so good to see our moderator back in there having some fun, because more than anything, that's missing in our world. So I would never argue against that. But I need you to rank the top 3 super fights, because there's only 3, but the 3 super fights that are happening between ADCC and the Craig Jones Invitational. And I'm asking you to rank your interest in Gordon Ryan versus Yuri Samoas, Gordon Ryan versus Felipe Pena, and Craig Jones versus Gabby Garcia. I'm going to start with you, Tim.
Well, you just ranked them for me. That's exactly the order that I'm interested in them. I think Gordon versus Yuri, for my money, is the most compelling matchup. 2 ADCC champions. Yuri's going to come prepared. Yuri's a great fighter. He's tough. He has heart. I really want to see that matchup. And I think these guys met up in EBI before Gordon was buff Gordon, back when he was just skinny Gordon and he wore the Burger King crown. That Gordon. So that was a great matchup. I'd like to see him run it back. And, Gordon versus Felipe Pena, I want to see that too, because I like watching Gordon Ryan. And then third would be Craig Jones versus Gabby Garcia. I'd probably just watch the highlight. I think in all reality, that's like a slam dunk for Craig Jones. Like, let's be honest. Gabby Garcia is she's a world champion multiple times over, but there's no way anywhere on any planet that she beats Craig Jones in a real matchup. It's just not even going to happen. So it's just a spectacle, which I get. They're trying to get eyeballs and they're being funny, but I don't know.
Kevin.
I think there is an interesting point to be made here about whether the outcome of the match being in doubt makes this super fight, because what we have is 4 super fights. I believe the Mackenzie Dern versus Fionn Davies is still on, unless that happened while I wasn't paying attention.
Nah, we're still good on that one. I'm asking these 3 specific ones.
Just those 3 specifically. But they all have a running theme. I don't think the outcome is in doubt very much. I don't want to say we know the outcome. Obviously, Yuri and Felipe Pena could surprise us, but we can be pretty certain the betting man's advantage on how this is going to go, or what the result is going to be. I will say I am interested in the how. I am pretty confident how all 4 of those turn out. I would feel very comfortable putting money on any of those 4 matchups, but watching the how they go about it does really intrigue me. How do people, specifically the underdog, approach each of these specific matchups? I'm most interested in Gordon and Felipe, Gordon and Yuri, Fionn, and then Craig and Gabby. If we're being totally honest, I think the Craig and Gabby thing is going to be a sideshow where he's going to be out there to entertain. It's going to be equivalent of Harlem Globetrotters as a super fight.
Understood. And I hear what you guys are saying. You're still treating this like a sport. God bless you both for that. I think it's time that we take a page from other things and get people to actually watch us for a change. And I think that is why it's my number 1. And here's why. It's not that Gordon versus the world is not necessarily intriguing in some way. It's just, it's not as compelling as show me something new. Show me something that I can hate, because yeah, it's probably going to be incredibly absurd. But what I can tell you, at least from this side, is there's still a lot of people who wonder if Craig is going to throw the action. Like, people aren't quite clear on how that's going to go. So I feel like that into itself, you're seeing a little bit more on how I think we broaden it, and hopefully people pay attention to like a Mackenzie Dern and the fact that you get her and Fionn. Like, I feel like that's the direction we should be going. But speaking of the direction we should be going, I think it's time we switched to another topic, gentlemen. We're going to now go to our next one. I found this interesting because, listen, much like the rest of the jiu-jitsu world, I want to tell you guys this. Yes, it is very good to see when jiu-jitsu is making positive sorts of shareables, meaning people are sharing on their Instagrams something really cool that's happening with us. And yes, it does appear that a study from somewhere, I don't know where, it notes that jiu-jitsu can have positive impacts to the youth. Now, Tim, I'd love to get you to start us off on this one. What exactly were the findings that happened in this study, or at least that were expressed in this video that was made?
I'm not 100% positive on this one. I haven't seen this particular video, but just from my own experience, having multiple kids programs over the last 10 years, for sure, jiu-jitsu's had a positive impact. I had many times parents brought kids to me and said, look, my kid is out of control, super hyperactive, driving us crazy. And, you know, can you fix it? Which is like, well, no, but I saw jiu-jitsu make a very positive impact on those kids. If they kept coming and the parents supported it, it worked pretty well. You know, who I feel sorry for is all the jiu-jitsu instructors who are going to get all these kids brought into them now. They're going to be like, hey, guess what? My kid has severe ADHD. Fix him. It's like, but overall, yeah, man, I think, you know, just on a serious note, for a lot of kids, what's missing is there's no contact. You know, when my kids were in elementary school, they weren't allowed to play tag. It's like too dangerous. You can't just do free play on the jungle gym. You got to do it in a particular order, in a particular line. And what jiu-jitsu does is it just puts some hands to hand contact, and they get comfortable with that. And I think there's a certain burning off of energy that you get from that kind of sets the rest of your day up or the rest of your life up. And for kids, that's super important. You know, they need stuff to do. Their brains are sponges and they need stuff all the time. And jiu-jitsu is one of those really, it's like drinking from a fire hose for them. So I think it's a great idea.
Kevin, when you saw this study and it was saying, yay, jiu-jitsu, what was your reaction to seeing the positive influence that jiu-jitsu can have on a child's upbringing?
I want to know why it hasn't solved my problems and fixed my life. I really, I understand that these kids, you know, they need developmental things, but they don't have real problems. They don't need that attention. I have to do taxes. I have bills. This is outrageous. You know, it's yet again, they're being coddled. Give me that. I do jujitsu and all I do is wake up sore. These kids become better people. This is insane. Absurd.
Thank you. I'm glad somebody said it. And what I want to make sure that people understand about this particular thing, it's not that I ever want to take a dump on the studies. It's just I want someone to forward me the study so that I can read it. Because I am inherently skeptical as somebody who went to grad school of somebody going, according to a new study, hey, we're all going to get laid. And I go, wait, who said that? That sounds great. We're all going to get laid. That's good news, right? Okay, sounds good. Where can I find this study? And people are like, I read it. It's good. It's all in here. It's an unshareable link. You need an EBSCO host account. It's really hard to read. Like, I just want to learn more about it before I comment on it fully. But I will tell you, the other reason I get skeptical about this is just like certain memes that are a little too we're awesome. I like a healthy amount of skepticism, like a healthy amount of, okay, I think that's very good. Obviously, if you have kids, put them in jiu-jitsu. We're all pro that. Except for our friends who have to sometimes teach those classes. That can be a very difficult job to do. But nonetheless, I've seen children get into programs, get focused, become better versions of themselves. So I would agree to that at its core. And I do feel like you would get that in some other sports, but perhaps because of our inherent ties to discipline, repetition to success, and learning how to develop skills that will lead you a long time in terms of trial and failure. I think that's a really good area that you find in what we refer to as humility in jiu-jitsu. So yeah, I believe those things probably true, but I always have to remind myself, like, is this just a study to just say how awesome we are? Because if you ever see videos like that and everybody gets really into like, we're so much superior than everybody else, I'm like, I don't know, man. Simone Biles literally just looked at somebody and made a child cry. And I like to think that she's influencing people positively in a different way. Like, I think most sports, if done in a right way, can be found as a mechanism for kids to do their best. But obviously, we're all a little biased here. So as long as we admit that bias, that's good. But nobody puts that in their Instagram stories. It's always everything else sucks. Put your kids in Instagram. And if you're really lucky, you'll get somebody who writes a 3-paragraph explanation without reading the study by just telling you a first-person experience, as if that is the study. They're going to be like, I know this for a fact because I one time raised a kid and that kid grew up to be Marcelo Garcia and then he's the best of all time. And I go, yes, I believe you. Why not? So that's my note on that one. Kudos to that. If you do it legitimately, if you do have the study, please send it to me. I do want to read it. I would at least skim it, even if I didn't read it, because it's a busy time right now, guys. We have a lot of things going on. You should know that. Let's go to our next topic. This one is, now, I do appreciate whoever wrote the buzzword this way, which is SKREETZ. Like, it challenges me as a moderator because I'm not just supposed to say the streets. I'm supposed to say the SKREETZ, which is supposed to be, I guess, the tougher version of this. But yes, of course, Merab, Sean O'Malley, Tim Welch, all of these people had some beef. So who submitted this one? You're in charge of giving us context here. All right. I should have known. Mr. Instigator himself over here. One Kevin Sherrill. What was happening in this video, sir?
Yeah, if you guys are unfamiliar, I'm something of a subject matter expert on things escalating out of hand for seemingly no reason. Apparently, Merab has taken issue with some of the things Tim Welch has said about their strategy to deal with Merab, and he's thought it diminished his skill. And Merab, while making that point to Sean O'Malley's counter was, okay, fight him. But like, it won't be, you guys are different weight classes. It will be for real, and he will kill you, which is, I would say, a more interesting twist. Let's do it. Set the cage up, and let's run it. Let's make this as real as possible.
You know what? That's a great thing, and I'm not going to tell you this. That's something you can come back at me at, but I think I'm going to name my next tournament series, Let's Run This. Like, run it. The jiu-jitsu tournament. Like, I don't think anybody's taken that one because I don't know if you guys have ever tried to name a tournament. That shit's really fucking annoying. And I thought we hit pay dirt once when I named something with Eric Medina, the Deep Waters Invitational. I was like, oh, that's pretty good. But I don't do that anymore. So now it's like a burned one. Like, it took me like a day to come up with that shit. Tim, what say you? What is going to come of all of this? Do you believe any of the hype? Is this just video that they have a guy ready to capture at any given time and you kind of suspicious of it? Or do you want to see this? Where do you fall?
I think the SKREETZ are the streets on social media. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm labeling it as. It's funny to me because a lot of these fighters, on one hand, they profess to be martial artists and honorable and humble, and many of them are in real life. And I'm sure Merab and Sean O'Malley and Tim Welch are all nice guys. But man, they're sensitive with each other. Like, if you say anything about anybody's technique or anything, it's like a big ordeal. Now it's time to throw down. And I think they really are hurt feelings involved. And I also think they're using it as an opportunity to promote. I'm sure there's a producer or somebody working with these guys that's telling them this is good. Yes. But I don't think O'Malley's joking around. about Tim Welch. And I would like to see a side fight. I think that's a really interesting idea. I would like to see the betting line on the side fight after the fight. Like, we got odds on Merab O'Malley, which is going to be at the Sphere. It's going to be a huge fight. So right after that fight, I think Welch and Merab should do it full on, like Dukes of Hazzard style, man. No rules, and let them go at it. And I want to see what the betting line is on that. I want to see how the betting line changes during the first fight. But I wouldn't want to mess with Tim Welch. I wouldn't want to mess with any of those guys, but Tim Welch is a monster, man. Just because he's not out there fighting right now doesn't mean he can't. So
maybe they need to put that as an Instagram only sort of experience. Like, you get the fight from the Sphere, but then don't just tune off. Go to your phone. Instagram only fight, everybody. Just go there. It is exclusive, though. You do have to pay. So just to let you guys know, that is not just the way how it goes there. I would say to this, these are fights that I can't even indulge because I just want it to be made official. Like, just make the fight official somewhere else. Yeah, he's got a lot of other things to get to. But whenever I see somebody like this, it's just like when you're at your gym and you go, oh, are you guys like, hold on. What? How does this work? Yeah, video. Go. And then, I think, Tim, you alluded to this, a producer. You said, like, a producer about, like, yeah, see, in my ear as a photographer and videographer, I hear them more like the Austin Powers, sort of like, yes, more.
Yes.
In his face. Yes. Like, I see that more as the photographer approach. And
Tell him he'll murder him, Sean. Yeah.
I just always think, like, all right, maybe you alluded to this pretty well, Kevin, which is we just happen to be in a combat sport. This is like when you fight at the weigh-ins. You fight tomorrow. I don't need to get more hype about this. You headbutting a dude might put the fight in jeopardy. So just literally wait 24 hours. These are the people who probably fought their parents to get an extra Christmas present that night before, just so that they could open it. Like, Mom, I need it right now. And you're like, no, you don't. You're a child. Mom, you want to throw hands right now? Let's do this, Mom. It's like, no, dude. It's 24 hours. You'll be just fine. And even shorter if you wake up early in the morning and bug your parents. Little trick there, kids. Let's go to our next topic. Now, this is an intriguing one for many reasons, but it seems that every time we get into an Olympic cycle, everybody takes a look at what the real Olympic events are. And as they start to compare other events, there's a slight pause, a hesitation, as people go, why isn't jiu-jitsu in the Olympics? And as a result of that, I look at both of you guys. Why is jiu-jitsu not in the Olympics? And I'll add one more to it. Would you care to see it? I'm going to start with you, Tim.
I will answer that question. I have a pretty strong feelings about that. One is gi jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is not organized enough overall. Now, on the gi side, the IBJJF is an internationally organized federation, okay? And it's organized pretty well, and it could probably make the jump and help with infrastructure if it became an Olympic sport. However, jiu-jitsu and the gi is too similar to judo to have both sports in there, and judo's not going to go down without a fight. So that's probably not going to happen. No-gi jiu-jitsu is not organized enough right now. It's too disorganized. There's too many formats. There's not really a governing body. It would be very hard to get it in as an Olympic sport. And to be honest, I don't want it to be an Olympic sport. When your sport, or especially your martial art, becomes an Olympic sport, it gets completely ruined from the martial arts aspect. If you look what's happened to judo, and there's not a knock on the judo players, but if you watch the judo matches this year in Paris, they're exciting, but it's so specific now. It's so shaped to the rule. And then that drives what all the judo academies are training across the country. And so there's huge pieces of judo that are left out now that people aren't doing. They're not practicing. So it really changes your sport in a dramatic way. And I don't want to see that for jiu-jitsu. I don't want to see the Olympics have all kinds of crazy rules and really totally modify everything that we're doing. So no, I say leave it out. Let the amateurs do the Olympics and let's go pro, baby. Let's get these guys paid. Let's forget about the Olympics. Let's set our sights a little higher. That's my take.
Hey, Kevin, what about you?
Tim absolutely nailed that. Every point, top to bottom, that was fantastic. So I'm going to expand on that last point he made about let's aim higher. Jiu-jitsu and MMA both are two of the fastest growing sports in the world, certainly in the country. We've seen the prize pools rocket up in the last year. Right now, we're absolutely untethered. We're the Wild West. The Wild West is a great comparison for it being a boom market. Like, we are seeing gold towns pop up left and right now with new promotions, with promotions paying more, with everybody rushing to get a piece of this thing. And do you really want to try and corral that right here where we're in our prime? I say let us run free. Let us run free. Let jiu-jitsu be what it is. Don't try and hand the sport over to the IOC and other governing bodies that are going to take it out of our hands.
Thank you for that, gentlemen. I'll take a quick little moment here. Here's what I want to say about the Olympics and its connection to jiu-jitsu. I don't think we deserve it. Now, hear me out. We love ourselves a lot. And yes, our sport is quite great. That's why we all do it. But that doesn't mean it translates to every other human. Case in point, look on over at pit submissions fighting for their lives, trying to justify their existence at karate combat. But let's say that's not the example you need. Let's say we want to look on over at the product that you're watching. Maybe you're not happy that people can just shoot at things and win gold medals. Maybe you don't like the fact that they can essentially play hybrids of shuffleboard or expertise, kind of parlor trick games, and get gold medals when we kill ourselves, literally, to try and get some kind of recognition here. I think what I realize most about watching these Olympics is the presentation. If you look at that and you think that we are on the level of an Olympic sport and the way they telecast it, you would be very foolish. We don't have that yet. We're building to it. And I do feel this in my bones. I think it would be cool for our people to get that experience. But then look at the way they profile the athletes. We don't have that in our sport. If you did a stress test on any of our athletes in jiu-jitsu to be put on that main stage of NBC Universal, you won't get Mariska Hargitay saying out to an audience, you know, Gordon Ryan's overcome a lot. Tummy issues, confidence issues, some other things. We're not quite sure what the story is, but you know the stories. You've read them. Bulls. Like, you wouldn't see those voiceovers like that. And then even if we're looking at the people here on the panel, like, even if I were to come on over and profile us as potential Olympic hopefuls, you'd be looking on over at Kevin Sherrill almost gets into a fight with a purple belt on this broadcast, let alone other places. Yup, this guy, he's definitely going to be the guy that you want to see competing on the main stage. Will he get a stalling call? Who knows? Tune in this July and August to see him at the Olympics. Or if I were to go over to this way and go, Tim Freeman, somebody who's been doing a lot of broadcasts for jiu-jitsu, and yet his body is dying on him. And yet that's what makes his story compelling. Yes, I'm Neil Patrick Harris, and I'm telling you a little bit about this man's journey to just being able to walk and step foot on a mat. And then, of course, we go over to my side. RAF ESPARZA, known for years for hosting many different shows. Many say he has a big head, but will that big head secure him enough to make sure he doesn't get guillotined at this year's Olympic Games? No, none of those profiles work. It's because we need research and development. And I keep telling people this. I would love to see people get that. And these guys are both very right in that, yes, maybe we should set our sights a little bit higher. Having said that, We don't have the right governing body. We can't agree on rules. Half of you morons yell at each other online and couldn't even get behind one set of organizations, let alone two when they happen in the same weeks. And I got news for you. Do you know how the Olympic Games work? They have multiple destinations throughout that region. And you guys are crying because the same two are happening more than 3 miles away from each other. What the fuck are you going to do when they tell you equestrian's here and here? And you go, wait, what? Sorry. Tough shit. Learn how to do it. I feel like we just don't pass that test yet. And I would love for one day for us to be able to say, yes, somebody got a gold medal in jiu-jitsu. But the bigger question is it gi or is it no gi? And I think that's where a lot of the issue hangs, because we have some people who are really good at making that no gi look like a sport and gi looking like an art. But as Tim mentioned, too similar to judo. And people who are watching no gi are probably going to be like, why isn't this just wrestling? This is weird. What are we doing here? So we do have to make a compelling argument, which is maybe a sport where people can pull guard and you just don't give a shit. You get the people that you say, hey, just put a good show and make an argument why we're not that or we're not that. And then maybe you'll see it in the Olympic Games. But you probably won't. Not for a while. But breakdancing, am I right? Eh?
Hey.
Why not?
Hey. Laser tag.
Laser tag. Just, dude, pickleball's going to be in there next time.
Pokemon
They're literally
Go.
going to get all to the hopscotch games. It's going to be a lot of stuff coming in, guys. So, all right, let's get through these last few little things here. And, Tim, you sent me this, and I don't have the full context, but I will throw up this video. Apparently, there was a fight that happened. Why don't you go ahead and walk us through what exactly I'm looking at in this footage, please?
Well, this is a fight between myself and Brandon McCatherine last night at 10th Planet Decatur. And talking about taps, he set me up, made me think I was going to get a triangle, and then he ducked his head under and tried to flip, and I put an end to that. But then he did an illegal technique, and I didn't tap, but he let go as if I did tap. But you see, I didn't tap. Did you guys see me tap?
I didn't see it.
The benefit, you cannot see it. I will give you that. The benefit of this technology is I can just play it again. So when I look at this footage here, I'll tell you this. Tim, let's actually stop it right here. In what world are you telling yourself a rubber guard is going to not only be possible, but at least to put the giant broad shoulder of one Brandon McCatherine? This is where I see things go astray. But the second region here.
A feint. That's a feint. I was fainting.
So who are you fainting, yourself or him? Because I don't think he's falling for it. We're going to move forward on this progress just a little bit more, as I love this. I think this is something we don't talk about enough. Bald on bald crime is truly an epidemic in our sport, and maybe we need to get more awareness here. But as
it looks like a pimple on my face.
It's just like two areolas just fell off of the region of the body. But when we get this here, I like that for a split second, you looked at the hand, you said maybe. Now, you mentioned that you thought a triangle was going to happen here.
Well, he was baiting me to throw that triangle, and then he ducked his head underneath, which I wasn't expecting. He tricked me in that.
Can we just, and again, Tim, you're a black belt. Who am I? The only thing that made me laugh here was that your own hand was blocking the possibility of, I mean, I'm looking at it and I go, at least omoplata. Maybe that triangle could have happened if your giant hand wasn't in the way of your leg. Like, shooting yourself in the foot was part of the, BJJ fanatics breakdown of this anatomy of the scene, sir.
I wasn't expecting him to dip his head out. So when he dipped his head out, he caught me in a spot where my hand was still trying to keep his hand from coming back in. And so he's crafty. I did crafty. Tap.
That's understandable. I've often been caught off guard when they defend.
Yeah, I'm not expecting defense. I roll with white belts mostly. I'm not expecting anybody to do anything different.
By the way, I love the
I was
idea.
just
Sorry, Tim, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
I love you, Raph. I'm sorry, man. So I did take heed to your advice, which I'm a big believer in pro wrestling guiding your life. You know, it should be your first knowledge is pro wrestling. I tapped in a way that the camera couldn't see the tap. And so if you're not cheating, you're not trying, man.
I was very proud of you. But there is one other thing I wanted to address, and then Kevin, I'll give you some time to give any expertise that you want to get to here. I want to go to this particular thing here. Now, most people would think that BMAC was very crafty and set up a heel hook. No, Tim said, here, have it, because now I can give you this and we restart again and I get a better position. Now, I don't think people utilize that enough. I think people really get into that spot of like, oh no, I'm in a bad spot, I better fight out of this. Tim, smart, says, foolish, Brandon. Now I get to start in a much better position where you cannot hurt me. Surprise. Take that. Kevin, any insight that you have on this as well?
Yeah, I agree. I find it incredibly frustrating when people are better at jiu-jitsu than me. And it really throws a wrench in my perfect Instagram highlight reel I had planned in my head.
I did have somebody at my own gym the other day who, I record all my rolls. They're usually the end credits on all my shows. And one of the guys was like, you're not going to show that to anybody. And I was like, dude, have you ever seen it on any of my reels? Like, no one, I don't put anybody on blast. I go, the only time I put it up is if I catch a really funny pro wrestling thing, or it's something that's so silly that it's memeable, and I send it to that person. I go, hey, I'm going to put this up. And they're like, yeah, you can, of course. I go, I usually get permission. But he's like, he was so concerned. He's like, where does that go? And I go, in all the jiu-jitsu forums, bro. Like, what are you talking about? People want to see me roll
straight
for 60
to the
minutes.
Gracies.
Yeah. I send it straight to Jiu-Jitsu X, and we are set here. So there is that. Gentlemen, I don't have much on the gallery, but I do have one thing. So I'm going to drop this in. And this is actually a continuation of what we were talking about just a few seconds ago in regards to the Olympics. Now, I thought I made a pretty compelling case, but this was actually something that when people were talking about in the comment section, it's more the perspective of why people feel that it is okay we don't get ourselves into the Olympics. And it's similar to what Tim was mentioning, but in a much classless and sillier way. It basically says, and this is in response to the Grappling Diaries exploration of why the jiu-jitsu world isn't in the Olympics. And I said, we don't deserve it. And I believe that. And this gentleman over here said, we don't want it. Plus, the Olympics is a clown show now. Plus, they don't pay. Well, okay. A few things. One, I like that people have had feelings about the Olympics, and yet the ratings are higher each day. Weird. Two, would we call it a clown show? I think it's a selective version of that, because I know wrestlers who are like, man, I hate how things are, but they're the first people to tune into the Olympics. That shit matters to them. And we don't have that in jiu-jitsu, and maybe that might be nice. Are the Olympics a clown show? Sure, for a number of reasons, but they're the clown show that most people tune into. And man, would we kill for any of those ratings. Like, yo, when I see the way that they did their version, they actually called it a zone. I think it was called Gold Zone is what you can get on NBC Peacock. And on Gold Zone, you can put 4 different screens. And I have to say, that gave me hope for what we have in jiu-jitsu. Because one of the biggest issues we have whenever we have ADCC trials is, oh, Kevin Sherrill's going up. What mat is he? 21. Okay. Well, good luck to you, Kevin Sherrill. I will not be finding you. I do not know. Matt 21.
Matt 21 is like pointed at the wall when you look at the camera. It's like you could just see their feet on the side. Like I think he's in Ashi right now. Like you can't tell.
And then we go back to radio days where people are asking me for the results, and I go, I wish I could tell you, but the screen is not working on this one. And then you have to go to people's social media and start like figuring out if they put up the "I didn't get the results I wanted" post. So you really have to do some research here. But I will tell you, I was at least proud to see that NBC Universal not only has their shit together, but if they have a multicam experience,
hey man,
I'm just saying,
that's good.
Wasn't that a problem that UFC Fight Pass had? It may mean the technology is a little bit more in realm of possibility, or that maybe we can con them into it, because I see soccer up there all the time. So we can like pretend like we're soccer and then go straight into jiu-jitsu. We just have to trick people, I think, is where we're going to. So anyway, that was the main feedback that we got here on the show this week, but I do like this. And it says, oh no, I don't know which one this was, Wallow. So you did put this up and you said, gotta cut that clip. Fire. I think that might be the Tim getting submitted. Oh yeah. It says Eddie Guerrero would be proud of Tim. So congratulations. That's
a big deal to me. If Eddie Guerrero was able to say he's proud of me, I would take that for sure.
I mean, it is one of the highest compliments Mexicans can give. So it is one that we basically tell you, the ghost of Eddie Guerrero.
It's like being knighted.
It is, dude. It's like being told that you're in charge of the asada. It's high praise in the Mexican family. Gents, let's do this. We'll go ahead and circle right here, but I would love for you guys to plug where people can see you and find you. I'm going to start with you, Kevin. Where can people see and find you, sir?
Yeah, come find me at Kevin Grapples on Instagram. That's the one. Not Bad Combat on YouTube. And come watch some of my guys compete at the Atlanta Submission Series. It's live and free on YouTube. And the money bracket is August 10th. And watch some of my blue and white belts tear it up in that division. We've got a quartet going for, I think, $1,500. Tune in for that.
It's good stuff. I have to ask this because, my hair is all right. It's pretty good. Maybe I could fix this, but I think that my hair started doing this when it saw the tuft of your hair escaping. So what is happening up here, sir, in this general region?
Dude, I have no idea. This is how I live. It like escapes and runs away, and I can't do anything about it. My barber is confused, nonplussed even. And she's like, did you just wake up? And I'm like, no. I took a shower, I did my hair, and then it just starts leaving. I don't know.
It's fascinating because I feel like it gets more absurd as the show goes on. Like it starts a certain way, and then maybe as you make your third or fourth point, it starts curling up ever so slightly. And I was like, that's just an impressive parlor trick. So good for you. Well, thank you, Kevin. Good work this week. Tim, what say you, sir? Where can the people see you and find you?
The people can always find me at Inside BJJ on all of your favorite social media platforms. I was just on Brandon McCaffrey's Ground Control show yesterday. That should be dropping soon. I think it aired live, but they had a couple issues they wanted to take out in post-production. So that's going to be coming out shortly here on BMAC's YouTube channel. We are having Javier Vasquez tomorrow night on Inside BJJ. You could check us out live on Instagram or YouTube. Yeah, man, outside of that, everything's great. Check me out in Nashville. If you're out this way, 10th Planet Nashville. And if you're in the hood in the 209, please check out our sister school, 10th Planet Stockton.
Gents, great work this week. As a reminder, everybody, the three people you see on the screen right now will be joining forces in Las Vegas in just a couple weeks. We will be doing extensive coverage of the Craig Jones Invitational and ADCC. So you'll want to be watching any of the channels you are watching this right now. We will be putting it on all of those channels, and we look forward to seeing you guys. And we are currently doing our best to steal all of the technology we can from Peacock and NBC Universal, and maybe use the affordable version of that to bring you coverage, even though this sport struggles to figure out how to do that. So if we see you through a Nokia phone, back from 2002. That is the technology we may need to use to get through that. But we are making plans. Kevin, Tim, I'll talk to you both off air in a second. I'll close this bitch up, but my thanks to both of you guys. Excellent work this week. All right, guys, last but not least, reminders, like, comment, and subscribe. If you don't know what you want to comment on in video, like the video down here, tell us one reason why you think jiu-jitsu should be in the Olympics. If you have nothing else to comment on, do that, because I'm perplexed at this time. Maybe in 2040 or something like that, we'll see it. We need time to leverage and, make the arguments, and it's got to get bigger and all that shit. And don't get me wrong, I'm still going to try and put on some jiu-jitsu event, I think, while the Olympics are happening. Because I think what we can do is we can get the people who didn't get into cross country and just be like, yo, come be the audience here. I think that's the way to go. Plus, we can Airbnb our stuff out here. We're going to make money during the Olympics in 2028. Traffic's going to suck. Anyway, that's a Los Angeles problem. My friends, thank you so much for watching this week. If you'd enjoyed this, we always love it if you guys can like, comment, and share all that good stuff. Follow me at patreon.com/grapplinghour. You can find all my products and information over at grapplinghour.com and the social medias of Twitter, Twitch, Instagram. Yes, now we're back on fucking Twitter. And if you're watching this on Twitter, we have a blue check mark, and that shit's weird. And I don't know about it. I had to sign up for this bullshit. It's weird, but we love you guys. That's why we're doing that. All right. Ladies and gents, that's going to do it for us here at the Bullpen. We will see you back here next week with another preview week, and we're very excited to see you guys very soon. It's been a great day for grappling. We'll see you back on the mats.